Get everyone. All right, let's just get everyone here. All right. Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome back we are now at week 3 of She Means Business 2023. So thank you for coming in. Thank you for joining. As usual, please feel free to put your information in the chat. Any way you would like your classmates to get a hold of you, to network, potentially collaborate. Feel free to go ahead and put that in the chat. So there are 2 things I want to mention today. One of them is we are going to have Mr. Omar Melong on today's call. So he is the business market manager for Citizens, and he's actually working out of the New England area. So there are a couple different regions that he's familiar with, but he's actually going to be providing today's class. But as always, we have Miss Kim Mitchell on the line for support. If you have any questions, everything is still gonna go as usual for today's session. That's one thing. The other thing, actually, I'm sorry, it was 3 things. So the second thing, as I usually mention on these calls, please take a second to just look at your name under the participants panel. If you see that you are showing up as iPhone or as Zoom user or anything like that that does not actually show your name, please either send us a message. You can send us a direct message and we can update that for you. Or if you have the ability to rename yourself, please do so that we can make sure to mark you present. Let's see if there's anything else I missed in that particular area. Okay, so we're good on that end. Lastly, we just kind of want to go over some emailing etiquette in terms of how we do these calls. So one of the things that, we didn't really touch on before, but in terms of, these particular classes, everyone received a calendar invite, and through that calendar invite, everyone's email is displayed, right? That being said, anytime anyone in the class has an upcoming event that they want to share with the class, maybe there's another resource that they would like to share with the class, there's 2 ways that you can do that. One, you're free to share this in the chat here while you're in class, because everyone has access to that. Secondly, if you want to share it directly with people that are in the class, you can either reach out to them directly because they've, agreed in terms of putting their contact information in the chat. Or if you're looking to do what we consider an email blast, which is like you're sending one flyer out to, the 120 participants that signed up. For that, you actually need to have consent to do that. So it's the same reason why we ask for you to give us consent when we're sending you any email blast that we send out. So for example, our monthly newsletters, even though we may have communicated with you 5 times, if you have not given us that implied consent, if you have not actually signed up for the newsletter, we actually are not allowed to send you out an email blast, right? Which is a good example of like why people get frustrated when they receive some things. Like a lot of the marketing stuff, right? You apply for 1 credit card, you get 10 in the mail, because a lot of people are just sharing your information. So we want to just make sure that, again, if you are going to send out that information to folks, please make sure that you're just getting their consent first before you start to send out some of those email blasts. That being said, if you do want to, like, if you're okay with receiving these types of emails from your classmates, please go ahead and put your email address in the chat along with yes, so that we can go ahead and kind of compile a list of email addresses, and then we'll have that ready for everyone by next class, so that you can at least have a list that you can start working from. All right. I see a few folks putting that in the chat. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And we are not going to waste any more time. Those are the announcements for today. Oh, I'm sorry. Last one, I promise. We we are actually going to put in the chat at the end of today's session, along with an email after this, a link so that you can actually sign up for the financial mentorship piece. I know we mentioned this early on when we first started, but week 3 and week 4, those weeks are going to be presented by Citizens, which, like I said, Omar is here to help us with that today. But the financial mentorship piece is going to be provided by Dave Krause. I know he's kind of in the middle of like doing some multitasking right now, but we're going to have him come on the call later on today so that you can just see who he is. He can, talk briefly about his knowledge and what he does. He was an amazing asset to this class last year. And so, we decided to bring him back so that he can provide a lot of, great mentorship moving forward. So that's going to be, again, later on at the end of the class, but just so you know that that's coming up. All right, I promise that is it. We can get started. Omar, go right ahead. Oh, Omar, you're muted.
So now I guess I'm good now.
Yes, you're good now.
Okay.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is such an honor to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation to Yahara and team. I'm super excited. So my name is Omar Mellon. I'm a business banking market manager of the New England area for Citizens Bank. This might sound boring, but I've been doing banking my entire life. I'm originally from Colombia, so I don't know. I haven't worked in any other industry. And here in the United States, Citizens has been my own employer so far for the past 18 years. I promise you I'm going to try to make this as much simple as I can and as interactive as I can, but I need your help. And my main goal is to make sure that out of all this information, you get 2 or 3 things really valuable that you learn something and you take away with you. So the best way to do that is interacting, participating. I'm okay with the questions. So the best way is if you can put it on the chat, and Yahara, if you can help me on like addressing these questions, I would love to answer those. I will do my best, and even if you have any other questions about any other business topics, I can address those, and then I can follow up with you later on an email. So let's try to have fun and let's get this one done. Sounds good? Terrific. So we're going to review a couple of things today, the business operations and why this is important for each one of your endeavors and your businesses. So we're going to talk about forecasting. We're going to talk about the supplier, the cost calculation, the choice poll. We're going to talk about the revenue calculation and the income statement, the gross margins, that I'm sure you are all familiar with this. Sometimes we don't really know the exact technical name of it, but I'm sure you are aware of this and you've been doing it for quite a long time. Then we're gonna have fun with an exercise that I'm pretty sure you already have that case scenario, if I'm not mistaken, Yahara, that you were working already on the juice shop.
So everyone has access to that via the Google Drive, but that was just recently today. So this is going to be like new news.
Even better. We can do it together. So I'm good with that. And that's one of the beautiful things that I love of business owners, that we always pivot different things and we improvise and we'll figure it out. So that's good. We're going to review marketing and investments. And then we will start to share ideas as a group, what was important, what was not. And because there's so many different scenarios and different contexts and different niche of markets, and I can keep going on and on and on about this. Okay. So, I mean, make sure that you have your video on if you could. I would love to have a conversation. And once again, please participate. Okay. So this is our ground rules. I just don't want to keep spending more time on this. Yeah, I had already addressed this. So let's talk about the juice shop. Okay. So the juice shop and the business scenario, for us to talk about one thing, and we can be on the same page on how to address the topics of today. So we're going to talk about a juice shop. It's an orange juice shop, and it's located at a neighborhood near you. The hours of operation are from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. The goods offered, orange juice, and the cost per glass is $4. So far, so good? Yes? Okay, good. So the primary customer group, local families, commuters who access near bus and train stops, workers at nearby offices and sites. Secondary customer group, tourists visiting the city, local college students, and fitness enthusiasts. The fixed costs, the juicing equipment, the rent of the real estate of the storefront, the insurance. They're gonna keep it simple, but you know more than me that there are way more costs associated with every business, but let's keep it simple. Variable costs, labor. Usually we have one team member on every shift, and the raw materials. So now that you're stepping into the orange juice shop, what are the business operations of the juice shop that come to mind to you? So what do you think? What will be the mechanic of this business, and how that operation looks like? And I'm gonna have I'm gonna leave that in here, but the reason that I'm asking is, and I don't want, no, let me go back because I don't want to create any confusion. So the main message, number one, that I would like to deliver in here is to know your business and your business operation. There is no better person in the world than you that knows exactly how the business works. What are the challenges? What are the frustrations? And how that looks like, okay? So that number one. Number two, know your product. Know your process. Because nobody else is going to find this out and find that additional value than you, okay? And to have a better idea of this, let's say that there are two orange juice shops on the same street at the same location with the exact same dimensions, owned by the same profile of business owner, maybe someone in the mid-30s, and were born at the same date and time. That doesn't mean that the management of the business and the operation of the business is going to be the same, because the owner A have different goals of owner B. Example, nowadays, many businesses, you've seen that businesses, sometimes we want to ramp them up, get up to certain revenue level, and sell it. That happens all the time, right? Some other scenarios, I'm so in love of my business because I put so much effort, so much steer, so much dedication into this, that I just want to continue growing it and eventually pass it on to my children, or eventually, open a second branch and a third branch and keep growing it, and make a living of that and retire, or pass it to my next generations. So again, same business, same location, same product, two different goals. And that's based on you, the owner, which at the end is the manager. Okay. So that's why now we're going to see some information in here. My second message for the day: the best friend of your business has to, or needs to be, your CPA or your accountant. That has to be your best friend, because that is the person or that partner that is going to help you on growing the business, is going to help you to protect yourself, and it's going to help you to understand, besides the process of this business, the efficiency and the entire operation, from getting the oranges and bringing that to the juice on the cup. This is the person that needs to understand, like, hey, Jahaira, what are you looking to do? You're looking to grow. You're looking to perhaps get a credit from the bank. You're looking to make a better living. You're looking to buy a house. You're looking to buy a real estate. There are so many goals at the beginning of every year that only this accountant working with you, they can help you on achieving these goals. Okay. And of course, they can also help you to protect yourself, to avoid this horrible lottery winning ticket, which is getting audited by the IRS. And I hope you win any other lottery, but not this one. But just in case, if you guys win it, so you are going to be ready, because everything is in place and everything is well organized. So, best friend, CPAs, or the accountant. And after them, the third best friend has to be a banker, a relationship manager from any institution, from any bank, or for whatever is the case, but someone that is working on a daily activity. So now let's start to review some numbers. So on a low scenario, on an okay day, under number one, you got the juice shop is selling 200 cups or glasses of juice. The base of the business is around 250, and on a best case scenario is 300 glasses. Okay, so we can take between the 250 and the 300. Let's go with an average of 250. So how the business model looks like: we're getting the supplies, we're getting the oranges, and then, it's a blender, but we don't blend orange juice, right? So I think there is a machine that squeezes the oranges, and then we get into that amazing cup. And simple. So that's my end of process, and I sell it and I collect money from my customers. So let's start to learn a little bit of these terms. That is what is called the business cycle. And that once we collect the money, I'm sure you've seen it in different other classes, that is what is called revenue. When we're collecting, or some people call it receivables, but that's pretty much the revenue of the business. Okay. So step 4, we calculate the revenues. So it is pretty much simple. So if we get 250 glasses, and then the raw materials are 1 orange per glass, so we just multiply, how many glasses times that, and then on the column C, you're gonna see the total number of raw materials, which is A times B, the number of glasses sold plus the raw materials, and then the cost per orange. Okay, so pretty much 1 orange cost me $1. So if I can sell 250 glasses and I only use 1 orange, so the total cost of my operation is 250. Okay, now, because Nowadays, everybody wants to be healthy and all this stuff. We have an option to provide organic orange juice and healthier oranges, no chemicals. So that's the other scenario. With the organic thing, pretty much everything using the same numbers and comparing actually apples with apples. It sounds a little funny, but so the 250, the same we use on orange, but the big difference is that the organic supply of this orange is going to cost me $2. So actually the cost of my entire operation is $500, which is pretty much double of the entire scenario. Okay, so far so good. Questions? No? Okay, so we're going to calculate the cost of sales. So for 250 glasses, using one orange and calculating, the cost of my raw material is going to be 250. So the entire cost of my raw material is 250, just like we disclosed in the step 4, and the same thing for the step 5. So now to put it into my books or my bookkeeping or my accounting piece. So if you can see on the left column, the revenue, 250 glasses times 4 is going to be 1,000. The raw materials out of these 1,000 is 500. So this is what is going to start very interesting. The gross profit is $500. So pretty much the example is this. My revenue is the entire amount that I'm collecting from my customers, and my gross profit is pretty much this revenue minus the cost of my good or my service. In this case, for simplicity, it's only the cost of the oranges. So that's the gross revenue. Then we're going to learn something else. Now, there is two things very important. It sounds like confusing, but at the end it's very simple. But there is two very important things out of this. I would like you to understand what is revenue, what is gross profit, and what is the percentage, and why this is important. Because sometimes I think I'm having a really good operation going on because I see a lot of volume, I see a lot of traffic, but that doesn't mean that I've been profitable. And that is one of the typical errors of entrepreneurs because of the lack of the organization and having the accounting and everything. We grab that money and then we put it in our pockets, or we put it on an account, which is the personal and the business. And because we are not tracking this well, we are assuming that we're making money, but at the end we're just collecting, but we are not making any profit. Sometimes we don't know because we haven't stopped and learn and understand the cost of my product or my service, and what additional costs or additional expenses are involved. So that's why it's so important for you to understand, besides the orange, what else is involved? We said rent, we said insurance. So that when I learn my numbers, that's when I need to do, whether if you do it monthly, if you do it weekly, bi-weekly, however it works for you. You are the business owner. So make sure that you get, if you're doing it monthly, so the orange cost me, in this example, it cost me 500, but also I need to consider how much is going to cost me the rent on a monthly basis. So I know rent might be $1,000, so I need to divide that 1,000 by 30. So usually it's going to cost me around $32, $33 a day, right? And then the insurance, let's say another, let's say 300, or it's going to cost me $10 a day to keep my shop open. So at the end, it's not just the $500 on oranges. I need to add the $133 that is costing me to be able to operate. And on top of that, sometimes entrepreneurs, and I actually can ask you that question and probably wouldn't have 100% immediate answer. And the question is how much you make an hour or how much your hour is worth. It's a big question, right? Because sometimes you're like, that's a good question. I don't know. And then usually my customers, they guess 100, 200. So that is telling me that sometimes you're not paying attention to these little details. So once you learn the cost and the operation and whatever is involved, every single detail, at that particular point, you can stop and say, you know what? I want to earn, or I want to make 50% as a gross profit margin, or I want to make on top of that 35% or 20%, depending on the industry and depending on the competitors, of course. That's when you come up and you pretty much you having a goal really specific or how much you are looking to earn on every process or on the business operation. Because at the end, you guys, you will be shocked once you start to analyze the numbers. It's like peeling an onion. And then the more that you go, you start to, oh my God. And at the end, how many times we have here the phrase like, it is cheaper for me to be an employee than run my own business. And, you know, besides the efforts, the sweat, the tears, it is a roller coaster. And that's why kudos to you, because I feel that with my customers every day. And there is no like more admirable profession than being an entrepreneur, being a business owner. And in fact, you should be proud of you because you invest in time of taking these particular courses. And also you need to be proud because you are pretty much the engine of the entire US economy. This economy was founded and is moved by small business owners. So kudos to you. So are we clear on this? This is exactly why it's so important to know these little things. And then we can actually brainstorm more about it. Why is important? Because if I'm going to negotiate, let's say that, you know, part of my foot traffic is a big college and they're coming to me and they say, hey, Omar, Thursdays we have Orange Day and I would like to buy you 500 glasses of orange juice. But I'm not going to be able to pay you the $4 or the $6. So you need to give me something. How I'm going to negotiate with that college is if I don't even know what kind of discounts I can provide. Sometimes because I really want to earn my business, I might be losing money. Remember, the best business in our lives could become the worst. So the only way for you to make a sound decision and a very responsible and professional decision is to know where the limits are and to know where is the breaking point and where you start to get into maybe losing money. Okay. Also, knowing your process, knowing your volumes, knowing your audience or your customers also can help you create strategies, such as every Monday and Tuesday, I have the college students walking by. So I need to make sure that I have enough inventory because I know that from 10 to 1, that's my rush hour and they're going to stop by my shop and they will get all these juices. So besides the oranges, I need also to be prepared with perhaps another employee because I'm not going to be able to supply that demand. And if they're on the run, I need help for those 3 hours. Whether if you have a part-time employee, whether if you're ready, but at least I know the trends and the timing. And then Wednesdays and Thursdays, maybe it's going to be a little slow. So I need to make sure that I can control my oranges, because on this business, they're perishables, and I can't try to use bad oranges because I don't want to lose that. And if I lose the oranges, it's pretty much I'm losing money. Okay. The other thing that you need to understand about this process is the audience, but sometimes we call it the niche of market. So knowing exactly the days, the times, what is my primary, who's my primary customer, who's my secondary customer, what kind of strategies I can do to cap more clients into my store. So what is going to move the needle of the revenue? Is it more customers, or perhaps adding another product that goes with the orange juice? I don't know, a fruit salad, or a pastry, or I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what goes with orange juice, but something else, like a vitamin powder or something. But maybe doing that as a, hey, for these orange juice, you are able to get this or something like that. So that's a strategy that I can start to work on it based on my audience. And I also need to understand how my competitors work. Where is my nearest competitor? How far from my shop? What is my competitive advantage? Maybe because the train station is really close by. So what could happen if they close that train station? That happens all the time. When when I've been to New York, sometimes they close it, and what happens to the businesses right nearby that train station? So those are the things that I need to understand. What is the volume of this traffic coming just from that train station? What is the traffic coming from my neighbors? So all these kind of things, I need to be clear with it. Because let me give you an example. Sometimes there are customers that they have concentration on customers, like heavy concentration. And the best example is the government contractors. So let's say that I have a factory of uniforms, and I was able to land a good contract with the state police, and they started to ask me for uniforms and all that stuff, and that's the greatest boom of my business. And I've been selling, and I've been hiring employees, and everything is great, and I started to see the money. My cash flow is fantastic. But then what if they got a new director of suppliers or whatever is the case, and they take it away? So what else I'm going to do? Because 90% of my income came from that customer. So that's something that you need to keep in mind. What could happen, or how can I minimize this impact if that happens? Or how can I be ready for something like this happens? Also, understanding your demography, you can design campaigns based on the season. So if I see that the families are coming with their kids, so maybe I might have a kids menu, maybe I have a kid cup, maybe if they're coming with their pets, I need to be ready for Easter, and then I need to be ready for the summertime, and all these kind of things to be up to date. Is a family, so how they access to my store, how they understand me. So what I'm present. Am I on Instagram? Am I on Facebook? Okay. How I'm talking to the community if my customers are that. So the more information that I got is gonna help me being better manager and take better decisions. Because once I have this, I can go ahead and talk better to my suppliers. So on the suppliers, if I know that every Monday and Tuesday I'm having this rush and I'm landing the business with the college, so I can go ahead and talk to my supplier and say, hey, Mayra, I need 1,000 oranges for Mondays and Tuesday. What is the best price that you can give me? Because going forward, that's what my order is going to look like. But then I also need to go ahead and talk to Yahira and say, Yahira, what is your best price? And why? Because what if something happens to Mayra and Mayra is not able to supply me with that, or something happens with the container, the truck, breaks, or whatever is the case. So I cannot depend only on one supplier, the entire functioning of my business. Because at the end, if I don't get the oranges, what I'm gonna do? I don't have any other additional products to sell, so I might need to close Monday and Tuesdays. And what is that reputational impact for my branding, for my shop? What is the message that I'm delivering to my customers? So if this happens, if Myra can send me the oranges, I can go ahead and call Yahaira, and Yahaira is going to tell me, oh, Omar, yeah, but actually I'm helping you here, so my oranges, they went up. So for this emergency supply, I can help you, but I'm going to charge you extra. Whatever is the case, but I don't have to close my shop, okay? And then once you have more options, that's what I'm looking to do. The way that you're going to negotiate with the landlord for the rent of the store, the way that you're negotiating with the banker, with the CPA, you also need to negotiate with your suppliers. And the best way to negotiate with them is knowing your business with data. You're going to, it's not like, how much are the oranges? What is the best price if I buy you a sack or two? No. When you come and you say, look, this is what I'm looking for. This is my volumes. What is the best price? And what if I increase my order on Mondays and Tuesdays with this? And believe me, just if I'm your supplier, I said, I want to do business with Ligia. I want to do business with Rebecca because she means business. Oh, that's the name of the, oh, awesome, right? Sorry. But actually, yeah, she means business. I want to be part of that because I know the way that she handles that business, she's growing, and I want to be part of it. I want to grow with her. And I want to make sure that if she's opening more shops, if she's hiring 3 more employees because the operation is getting so busy, I want to be that supplier. And it's the same with the banks. If I see as a banker that you're growing, I want to be part of that. I want to grow with you. And I want to come to the point that, I'm sorry, is everyone listening? Well,
Yes. I
yes.
want to, sorry, Omar, I want to just take a quick pause. Great information, but can I get a thumbs up for everyone that's still with us? We're still alive. We're still looking alive. I see Kim. I see a few thumbs, 2, 4. Okay. I need to see more thumbs. We have a little over 60 folks on here. So, and I don't know. We lost a few thumbs. Let's see. All right. So I see some going on in the chat. Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure we're still here. Feel free if you have any questions or anything, put them in the chat, and then we'll either call on you to ask them yourselves, or we can just go ahead and ask them for you. Go ahead, Omar. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. So do I get the majority of the thumbs up or not? No, I fell already.
There's a few thumbs. I think we accounted for a good amount of thumbs on the call.
Okay. I'm gonna do my best my remaining hours. So far so good. The way that you're presenting this business to your suppliers, to your customers, and to your partners, that is success. Because if me as a banker or any of your suppliers, if you identify that the business is well managed and is organized, and the business owner knows her operation, her company, and for some of the questions that we usually ask whenever we're having a meeting, that person is able to address those to me like that come by instinct, that is giving me a peace of mind that particular risk of the business is well taken care of. Because many businesses can be successful. They can have the greatest product ever. But if I actually don't know how to manage and how to understand what I have in there, what is a simple calculation of the volumes, the revenue, the cost, I'm not going to be able to scale the business to the next level. And believe it or not, and some people, they will disagree with me, but one of the main mistakes of a business owner is being perfectionist. Because when you are perfectionist and you want to have the greatest orange juice ever out there, but if I don't know how to have a stream operation and the functioning of my business, and if I'm not able to generate any profits on my business, I might be able to sell the greatest glass of orange juice to 5 customers or 6 customers, because the other ones that didn't have time to wait for me to taste that perfect orange juice. So, and another example, some people might agree that, I don't know, I don't know, let's say burgers, cheeseburgers. So you guys agreed that the best burgers are coming from McDonald's or Burger King's, the best burgers ever, the best taste? Yes, no?
Kim would say yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
I mean, I like them, but I think that they're better burger joints, you know, the local ones with bigger ones. So I think they are, I know for a fact, they are the ones that sell the most burgers around the world. But there might be some other local burgers with a better taste, okay? But one of the beautiful things of that company is that maybe not the best burgers, not the best fries, but the best management ever. And what they do, they keep evolving based on the needs. So now they introduce like the green menu and the salads and all these kind of things. And at the end, the fries are going to be exactly the same, but with a different presentation. When you walk to the store, sometimes they don't really need to remodel the interior of the store, but they want me to have a different impression and have a different experience. The fries are going to be the exact same fries, but they are evolving. And behind the scenes, there is a big management team looking at that, and they're not just getting focused on the fries and the burgers or the Happy Meals. They're getting focused on the management piece of it. And that's my point for you as a business owners. Even if I'm not going to be able to go through the deck with the exact example and all these kind of things, but I'd rather you to take this away, because I handle on my team, we handle over 4,000 customers, just like you. And I've learned for these past years, what are the challenges, what are the pain, and how we can learn and how we can minimize these obstacles, and how we can improve and we can grow together. Okay, so for effects of this exercise,
Hey,
um
Omar,
yes.
sorry to interrupt. I just want to get through 2 questions that we actually have in the chat before we move forward. So one of them, Shanice asks, does this calculation easily translate for a service-based business? So example, business coach, instructors, etc.
That's a great question, Shanice. Thank you. Thank you. Service, yeah. Examples of service businesses could be insurance brokers, part of the banking, consultants, coaching. So the price on the raw material per se. It's the only difference, but a coach, or you know what, the best example is a contractor. So at the end, a contractor is providing us a service, whether if he's a financial contractor, is a construction contractor. So they're providing me a service, but there are some things involved on that operation. Usually their insurance policies are the biggest expense, which is the liability, the workers' comp, and all this kind of insurance. The second thing that they have to deal with is somehow they have to pay for rent, because they usually have a warehouse, they have some vehicles and all these kind of things. And the biggest piece on the services companies, and for every company, the biggest and heaviest cost of that operation is payroll. So whether if you pay employees as a W-2, as a 1099, but those are the biggest expenses. And also for this particular industry, they need additional expenses that sometimes a physical store, like a motor brick, doesn't need to, because at the end, if you come to my juice shop, you walked out with that orange juice and you like it, chances are that you might come back because it's on the way to your final place to go, whether it's the work, the college, or whatever is the case. But some of the services, that's the challenge, because if you need, for instance, a real estate broker, if you need a financial coach and all these kind of things, it's not like you're going to move all your company over them. So they need to advertise, they need to be present, and they need to have that remembering factor. Like, Shanice, I'm here. If you have any questions about any of the services that I'm providing, I'm here for you. So for them, also a big expense or big cost is how they're being present out there. Sometimes they're members of different networking groups. Sometimes they have to travel around to different seminars, fairs, and all these kind of things. And that's a different thing. But once again, it's pretty much the same principle. They understand every month I have to pay $100 to Facebook, $50 to Instagram. I'm also advertising on LinkedIn. I'm advertising on all these different platforms, and that's part of the regular base cost. And the other thing that is going to help you, as well as a business owners, is that you need to identify. In this case, for the orange juice, you need to identify, in order for me to keep my store open, to be able to function, I need to sell 200 glasses of orange juice. And if I don't sell those, I'm losing money. In order for me to be able to keep the doors open, to pay the rent, to be able to open, I need to sell this. And that's another topic that I want you to take away, that you need to put yourselves some goals, just like every other company in the world they do. Put yourself goals. So if I'm selling this week 200 glasses of orange juice, how about if next week I'm going to sell 210? Now that's the goal. How? So knowing your audience, knowing your clientele, that's when you can come out with different strategies to increase these goals. Sometimes the goal is not necessarily to sell more glasses of orange juice. Sometimes it's to reduce the cost of my operation. So how? Maybe I had my store open at 9 p.m. and I don't know how many people would like to have a glass of orange juice at 9 p.m., right? So maybe I was using more electricity than what I should, because I didn't know the timing of my sales and my peak hours. So I hope this answers the question. Yeah, that makes sense, Shanice, or not? Yes? Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Omar. There's another question that says, where'd it go? Okay, Daddy Doyen asks, and how does volume translate for a service-based business?
That's volume. I'm sorry, didn't catch the last thing.
how does, let me scroll back. How does volume translate for a service-based business?
Okay, they're correlated. So volume translates for any business, translates in more revenue. If you remember on the slides of the orange juice, the more that we sell, the higher, the higher the volume, it means the more sales. Now, how that translates to your business, having better revenues and knowing the business, you will have the power of decision to create the strategies in different ways. If I'm having a higher revenue, so I can go on a service business, I can go and say to my insurance company that my revenues are X and the risk is less, and they can renegotiate my policy, the premium of my insurance. Also, depending on the volume, if I'm having like traffic, so if I'm having not a good lease per se with any of my landlords, I might be able to use that as a leverage to have a better negotiation power. But pretty much besides the volume, so volume equals higher revenue. Now, the biggest question in that is, am I prepared to do that? Because again, growing sometimes is fantastic, but that crazy growth might end up killing the business in various ways. And the cost of operation might be ended up killing the business on the quality of the product. Because going to the service example, people service, the most valuable asset of those businesses are the owners or the team that is representing that business. In my case, I'm selling an intangible product because a checking account, you can't touch it. My availability over the weekend, you can't, that's intangible. So at the end, most of the business owners like you, they want to do business with my relationship manager that is available to them. So if you're growing, like if my relationship manager is adding more customers and more customers and more customers, he's not going to be able to provide his customers with the same level of consulting and the same level of service, right? Because he only has one phone, two hands, and one mouth. So he's not going to be able to speak unless he's doing conferences, right? But sometimes you guys signed up to be part of his portfolio, her portfolio, because of the level of assistance that he was providing. So now this is an unusual term, organic growth. So knowing my trends, and if that's part of my goals, so then I need to review over and over the efficiency of my process, meaning on any business. So how my process looks like. In this case, I'm getting the oranges, I'm taking those out of the bag, I'm putting those on the machine, and I'm getting that. So at some point, if I'm looking to grow, but I'm only one-man show, how is that going to look like? I might have 400 people waiting for me at the door, but I only have two hands. So what I'm doing to be prepared for it is the same on the services example. So if I only have two hands, how I'm going to be able to help more customers and take more customers on my portfolio. So whether if I'm having another professional that is going to be coached direct by me and will provide the level of service, or maybe knowing that process, I'm breaking the process in pieces, and then I can start to delegate different colleagues on that particular part of the process, because that's another key on your entire business function. You need to identify what the steps on every single process they look like, because as you grow, then you can hire colleagues just for certain tasks on your business. So in the case of the services, it will be a good idea if I have someone that is able to answer the phones, to manage my calendar, to take the messages, and then some people that once I have the meeting with my customer, I can turn around and I can say, hey, Lauren, we need to do this, we need to order this. And there are different things and different tasks on each operation that not necessarily require my entire attention. And that's why I said one of the mistakes of entrepreneurs is trying to be perfect, because if I cannot delegate, if I and you see, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, that sometimes when you are looking for help, but you have that feeling that, oh, but they're not gonna do it the same way that I do it. But it's not gonna be done the same thing. I need to supervise that. I need to take a look at this. So those are the things that I'm not going to let go in certain parts of the process, and I'm not gonna be able to grow. So delegating and having the right people, which that goes based on training and based on you and only you understanding how the process look like. And then you can start to mentor new colleagues that start to grow with you. But once again, volume means more revenue. But the big question mark is it, am I ready or I'm not? Because if on the desperation of me or taking more contracts and more businesses, then I'm going to create the biggest damage on my branding and the reputational. And consumers, don't forget, once you lose that confidence from your consumers or your customers, forget about it. And you've seen it in so many times, so many examples that we can go over and over, but that happens quite often. We good?
Thank you, Mark. Yes, that was very detailed. Um, I know we are coming up on a break in just a second, but I just want to get this last question out. So LaShawn asks, what about costs if it's just one person as a business? So if we can maybe get to that real quick before we take a break.
So what is the cost for one person of the business?
She says, what about costs if it's just one person as a business? So basically sole proprietor, but as an LLC, a home-based business.
Okay. So I'm taking that as the business structure. So if it's one person, the lowest cost to start a business is the sole proprietorship. Why? Because you don't have to pay the registrations. You don't have to go to the town hall or the city hall to get the articles of incorporation or corporate resolutions and all these kind of things, which is usually around $550, 500, 600. With the sole proprietorship, you only need a business certificate that costs, give or take, $60, $70, $65, depending on the time. So that's the easiest way, because I can go ahead and open my business checking account or my local financial institution, and I can conduct business. I can use my home as an office. And for tax purposes, I'm just going to give you the basics, but that's a question for your best friend, which is the CPA. But for tax purposes, it's easier for them because you can file taxes under the same personal tax returns. And at the end, you're saving the fee of filing taxes as a business, as a personal. Now, that's the beauty, the cheapest and the easiest way. Yeah, under the other companies, yeah, you can be a sole member with the LLCs, and as a private corporation, you can be everything. The president, treasurer, director, and all these kind of things. Now, big question mark. Sole proprietorships, they're amazing for tax deductions, for controlling expenses, controlling the costs and everything. However, depending on what you are doing and what your business is in the industry, careful. Because if I'm a contractor and if If I'm out there that maybe when I pulled over on your house on your driveway, I made a mistake and I hit your car, or I hit that expensive, I don't know, arrangement that you had out there, you can, if I'm going to be liable for that, besides the business assets and what I own, you or whoever is going to sue me, or whoever is claiming that, they can go after my personal property. So be very careful, and that depending on each of industry and business venture, sometimes might not be the best way to go. But to start is definitely the best way, and that's intentionally by the government, because the main purpose of the government is to have people like you to start new businesses and new endeavors in this area.
All right, thank you, Omar. LaShawn, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, thank
Well,
you.
I already set up the LLC, so I was basically, it's more so doing personal and professional development for individuals and groups.
LaShawn,
And it's
sorry, let
Mhm.
me just pause for a quick second. So I just want to be mindful. So everyone, we're gonna take a 15-minute break. So we'll be back at, if I count this correctly, 6:21. That being said, if you wanna, just turn off your camera, mute yourself, and then come back in 15 minutes, feel free to do so. But while most of you are on break, those who want to still ask your question, LaShawn, I'm gonna let you go ahead and provide your explanation right now. And then I know Daddy Doyen, you had you kind of expressed your question a bit more in the chat, so we can get those while everyone else is on break. But I just want to make that clear to everyone. You're free to stay on if you want to listen, or if you want to step away, get a drink of water, use the bathroom, eat some snacks, whatever floats your boat. No judgment here, but we will be here back with the rest of the course at 6:21. All right. LaShawn, go right ahead.
Well, yes, thank you. I was just explaining that I already have the LLC instead of doing the sole proprietor, but I was just looking for a little more clarification about like my startup cost was only basically the filing fees and the fees to do the advertisement and such, and whatever marketing materials that I purchased. So that was the bulk of my startup costs. But to maintain it, that's going to be contingent upon how many contracts I get or how many workshops that I do and such. So it's a little different because I'm providing a service more so than an actual product.
So that's a good question. And that's a very loaded question. So I'm gonna try to break it, okay? And Jaira, please stop me if I'm taking more things. So on the LLC, fantastic, because sooner or later, most of the sole proprietors, they need to transition to either being an LLC or a private corporation. And on the LLCs, I two types. I'm guessing you got registered as a sole member or member managed.
Yes.
Which at the end, the main reason that you're doing that is, and kudos to you, is I think you're trying to minimize the exposure and the liability, and you're protecting yourself and be able to keep that separate. So the costs, they were like, I don't know, $550, and maybe if you paid an accountant to do that, they usually charge around $200, $250. But believe it or not, that's not your only cost. And that's a really good question, because you are an employee of your own LLC, Basha. So on the LLCs, there are no presidents or vice presidents, there are members and managers. So you are actually the manager of your company. And whenever you are, besides the filing fees and all these kind of things, I'm sure the company needs a computer. So I know you own a computer, but not the LLC. So at some point you are lending this equipment to your LLC, or at some point your LLC has to buy you that piece of equipment. And also, I'm sure the cell phone is your personal cell phone, but you're using it for the LLC. So the same principle. And also, if you're driving to meet a customer or meet a potential client, you're using your car as well. And the most important thing, that's exactly why I ask the business owners how much your time is worth. How much your time providing your best advice or coordinating all these kind of things, you're gonna charge me. Sometimes it's really hard, but the best way for you to do it is based on the area that you are. You can just go ahead and Google to have an idea what is the average cost of a financial advisor an hour, or whatever you do in an event planning, or whatever is the case, and you can have a good start point. But at some point, the LLC, you being an employee of the LLC, by the end of the year, either they need to generate some sort of payroll document, or they need to generate a K1 or whatever is the case. But you need to make sure that you are part of that and you report it well, because then down the road, once you start to add all these costs, can be a little deceiving, because then the operation that you had before, it wasn't the accurate one. So, and as a best example of these particular situations, new entrepreneurs, when COVID hit 3 years ago, and they didn't have all these well implemented, they were unable to qualify for many of the grants and PPP and all these kind of things. I don't know if you're familiar, but that's pretty much the principle. I hope that answers your question, or made it more complicated.
Well, it was helpful. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, thank you, Omar. So let me, I was just replying to a question here. All right, Daddy Doyen explains, I'll say, okay, so when I ask how does volume translate in a service business, I mean, like my business is set up as a club or community now with some event planning / catering. So is my volume the amount of customers I have? How many members sign up? Customers per event? Like what exactly would volume entail in that particular situation?
So that's another good question. If it's a catering business, if the scope of the mission of this business is events, the volume is on events. So as a business owner, the revenue that I get is based on the event and the details of the event. If it's an event for 50 people or for 80 people, I'm sure you are providing the cost of the contract, or the value, or yeah, the cost of that event based on people, based on what they're looking for. If they're looking just for lunch or for or appetizers, or for whatever is the case. But I'm sure you are providing the cost of that based on the attendees and based on the days and based on the location. So you are not, I know where the confusion is, because sometimes we're trying to build the volume on foot traffic per capita, but that's not the case on this particular scenario. If it's a catering business, it's based on events or contracts. And when you start to calculate that per capita is when I have a food traffic, which in this case will be like a restaurant or a bakery. But most likely for the catering events is on how many events can I go, and the volume goes on how many events can I execute on the weekly basis. So I hope that answers that, but pretty much more contracts.
So like if I have 2 or 3 contracts, and okay, so the thing about the structure of my business is we've been talking about this in the other classes, but I'm trying to get away from being pegged as just a catering and event business. It's a club. And the center of that club is like the gimmick is that everyone is invited around my table. So people connect over the food, but I don't just do events strictly. I do events, I do workshops, I do classes, things like that. So like if I have an event and a workshop and a class in that 1 week, would that mean that my volume is like, that would be considered 3 contracts or 3 things? Like that would be my volume?
Now I understand the question, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Daddy Doyen.
Daddy. So that's a really good question, and congratulations. So now I understand better. So you don't do these events elsewhere. It's pretty much on the club or on the same location, right?
No, I use different venues, but I haven't solidified the contract yet, but I do have a home base that I don't want to talk about yet. But so a lot of the events are going to be at the same place, but I also have venues that I work with in like nearby areas like Syracuse and Buffalo.
Okay, so this is a great example. So your business, this particular question is called business revenue, like different revenue verticals or revenue lines. So because at the end, your business and it's pretty much your brand is that umbrella, but you have different revenue streams. For you for me to make it even more simple, is like out of my pizza shop, I sell to my customers that they come in there, but I also sometimes I have like catering and I have corporate events and all these kind of things. But in order for me to calculate exactly which line of my business is generating certain income, I have to keep it separate. So whenever you're reporting that in your profit and loss and your financials, usually what companies do is, in your company, it will be catering events. They'd say that you generated, I'm gonna use 100, and then on workshops or networking or whatever is the other business line that you have, or another business product that is under your main business, the Kinky Cafe, I guess. I hope I'm pronouncing this well. So I love the name, by the way.
Thank you.
So then if I'm going to the Kinky Cafe, but I'm not going to use the catering services, but I'm more doing into, I don't know, any other branding or networking or whatever is the case, that you're charging me a fee for it. So that's another business line that you have under your same umbrella. And then if you're doing, I don't know, events like tonight is like a painting and eating something, so that's another business revenue. So in order for you to make sure, you have to have well defined what these business lines are, and identified which one is the primary, which one is generating and is worth it to keep it, and which one is not. This happens all the time, and I love the diversification that you're looking to do. That's really, really good, because at the end, you are not dependent on a particular service of your company. You are kind of innovating, but my best advice will be to to follow up this in detail, because then you can react on time, whether to improve that particular business line or modify it or improve it. At the end, we're looking the efficiency, but we're looking also to be profitable. And that happens all the times. Let's use Amazon. Amazon, I'm sure most of us, we had experience with Amazon. So out of all the products, I think, Yahaira, you guys are located in New York?
Yes, Marisol and I are here in Buffalo, and then our other two colleagues are out in Rochester. I do want to just pop in though and say we're actually going to be back in 1 minute. So just to give you an update on
Okay.
time.
Thank you. So the Amazon, the beauty of that is that Amazon, for whoever had followed that, they have different services, different business lines. So if they have the Prime wardrobe, and then the try before you buy, and all these kind of things. So they're reinventing that business all the time, trying to capture more revenue. But on every business line, some of those they worked out, and some of those they definitely, it wasn't worth it. So that's what I'm trying to tell you, Daddy, like, follow up on each business line, but at the end, your business has to have the primary product that is the main revenue driver, the most important product, and the one that is building your branding and is building your business. So I'm guessing is the catering. So don't put the guard down on that, because that's another mistake that I've seen from my customers, that the main priority or the main service or product of the business, in order for them for looking to expand it and generate additional revenue, they put the guard down, and sometimes the quality gets sacrificed, or the service gets sacrificed. And that's what sometimes the customers, they just look for additional options. I hope that helps with your question, Daddy.
Yes, thank you. That's much better. So basically, I just need to make sure that I separate each line of income, or each line of revenue, so that I can track my success.
Yes.
You track your success and the income, because
So
knowing that, so
Omar, sorry, I'm gonna actually just cut you off right there, just because we want to be mindful of everybody's everybody that's on the call. Daddy Doyen, if you want to put anything else in the chat, please do so. Omar, you know, if you want to stay on after to maybe finish up the conversation, you're also welcome to. But we do have a few questions in the chat. We're going to get to those in a few minutes. Marie, I do see your hand up. We will also get to you in a few minutes, but we just want to be better at staying on time with these presentations. So Omar, if we can kind of move forward.
sure. So
Thank you.
just pretty much to close the income statement is the revenue, the gross margin or the profit is pretty much the revenue. And this is a word that you're going to see quite often. The cost of goods sold. That is the cost of that. So again, it's pretty much whatever I generate minus the cost of my goods, and that's how I get the gross margin. So that is as simple as that. So on my gross margin, then out of that, I need to take additional expenses. So my portion for taxes and some additional expenses such as insurance and maybe unexpected additional costs that my car broke and I needed to hire another way of transportation and things like that. So I need to add it to my gross margin because that wasn't part of my regular business operation, and eventually that's also part of the costs. Okay. So on this particular workshop, they were adding another little thing, which is adding an additional product to enhance the revenue of the business. And that's pretty much which is the fruit basket. And at that point, if you can see, the cost of goods sold on the cell B, the price of the entire basket is $30, but the cost of goods sold is the fruit is $10 and the basket is $5. So at the end, as a gross profit, I'm having the $15 of it. So, you know, not to keep going over and over and redundant, but it's simple, you know. The cost of that, besides the particular asset or whatever you're selling, do not forget to add additional intangible things to that fruit of to that basket. So, which is the operation, the labor, the rent, and all these kind of things, because again, that has to be sold, that has to be generated some way, somehow. Questions so far on this?
I don't see any questions on this. We had a couple from before, but we're good so far.
Okay. So, and you can see in the entire operation, yeah, the standard fruit basket and the upgraded, but at the end, I would like you to pay attention to the bottom, the percentages on your gross margin. And on the upgraded basket, it seems like I'm selling that for $35, but that's what I was saying before. It seems like I'm generating a lot of money when I'm increasing the volume, but in reality, if you go to the gross margin, it's only 40%. So it is deceiving, that number, right? So it seems like I'm selling more, but I'm making less. And that's what is going to help on you become a better business managers and business owners, because that's when you can make a decision. Is it worth it? Is it worth it for me to go through the hassle to put all these baskets together and all these kind of things, or it is not? I mean, in this case, still be worth it. You are making money, but then you need to evaluate how much of time is consuming that, how much of the operation is getting deviations because of this additional product. What is the reception of my consumers and my clients? Are they having a good feedback about it? They liked it, or maybe they're buying it because they want to experience new things. So how reoccurring are these sales happening? These kind of things we need to pay attention, because that's exactly, we get surveys all the time, and because they need to understand me as a consumer and as a customer. Okay. So and again, the now that we're adding the organic and the income statement, so this is very important. When we talk about financials or financial reports or financial statements on a business, we call it the income statement and the balance sheet. They're the most two common statements, but one has to go with the other one. They need to be together, hand to hand, because whatever I can see on the income, I cannot see on the balance, or any questions that I'm going to get out of the income statement, the balance sheet will address those questions. So the income statement pretty much looks like this. The income statement looks like the top line is the revenue, which is all the money that I'm generating based on my sales. And then the raw materials, which is the part of the cost, and then additional costs, and that's why when I get to the gross profit. So how many times you've heard the expression of what is the number on the bottom line? What is the famous number on the bottom line? So that's what the income statement is going to tell me. So the bottom line is the number, the result of the entire operation, which the top line is what I'm generating, and the bottom line is the number that is left over after my taxation, my tax obligation, my costs, my expenses, my rent, my everything. And at the end of the income statement is what is actually is my profit, is what I'm making out of the business. So sometimes, once again, I might have on the top line, the revenue might be really, really attractive. But if all the way to the bottom, that number is not as big, so maybe my business is not as healthy. And I, as a business owner, I need to start to address where I might be able to improve that to increase the size of my bottom line or my last result. Questions? No? Okay,
Looks like we're good so far.
good. So now this is when I need all of you to ask the questions, and as a team, we can come with ideas on how we can take the gross profit from 500 in this case to 1,000. So what ideas we can come up with, and how we will be able to start to grow that business. And maybe you can take some of these ideas and apply it on your own. So Yahaira, I don't know how you would like to do that. If you want to do the breakout rooms, or if you want to do it in here, or
No, we can go ahead and do it in here. We didn't have this set up for breakout rooms. So this is fine.
okay. Okay, so how, so the question is how we would be able to increase the revenue on a business. So I'm gonna tell you there are different ways. There's one of the ways is increasing price or increasing volume that I was asked that question several times, or offering discounts, maybe to attract more customers. So now you tell me, depending on each business, what will be the best idea to grow the business?
Can I speak?
Yeah, feel free.
Absolutely.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lathanette. And this is a good question, because this is where this is the pivot point I'm at in my own business right now. So I'm thinking one of the best ways to, or one of the ways I'm thinking to kind of increase profits or grow the business is to do more calling, like going down my inventory of possible clients, and sending out more emails or cold calls, and just continuously putting our business out there. Say, for example, like I watch Sonic send me a new text message every single day, every day. And I watch their marketing plan or their marketing strategy, and I say, well, they make sure their client knows that they're relevant, they're available, and they're always here for us, no matter what. So I said, well, maybe I should consider a Sonic kind of approach, and eventually it will catch on. That was my thought. So that's my 2 cents.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
No, and let me tell you what. My wife tells me that she cannot sell anything, that she hates sales. But she was the greatest business manager when she was working at a local bakery. The process was seamless and everything. People, they were going to get a coffee and they were walking out with a coffee and a bagel and maybe half a dozen of rolls or whatever was the case. She didn't know that indirectly she was the best salesperson of that particular shop. So the lesson here is that you as a business owners, believe it or not, in order to improve revenues, you have to sell your product or service. And there is no other employee or other person that can sell the value of your business better than you. So to have that sonic approach, that would be fantastic if I can get an email from Kimberly saying, Omar, happy birthday. I hope you have a terrific day and stop by our shop and we have something for you. I would be like, oh my goodness, I need to stop by. I need because I feel important. So that is a really good point. And the way that increase, so going, the essence of your great tip is to increase revenues.
Increase revenues. And I like that. My last point to it is the other thing that it goes back to what you just said about your wife and the whole relevancy of you as increasing sales. One of the things that you as an occupational services that I really believe is service is so important. Sales will follow. So just like you're saying, I watch Sonic. I'm almost tempted to just go there. Like, I'm about to go to Sonic. I got to go see these people that talk to me every day. I mean, they literally talk to me every day. And that's the other thing that I'm getting. Sonic, now that I'm talking to you, Sonic speaks to me every day. Sonic says hi to me every single day. I like that.
So, and that's awesome because the execution after you became or you have one experience, they got you there. But now the biggest question mark is for new business owners, how we create that traffic.
Right.
So, and then how we create it and how we maintain it.
Right.
Because there are two different things. And then now that I earned your trust.
Right.
Now, what else or what additional service or product you might be able to get from me because I earned something that is so invaluable to earn, which is your trust and your loyalty. But that doesn't last forever. So what else I need to do? So that's more on the execution, but that's a really good idea to attract more revenue. The revenue doesn't mean that I need to have more customers. Maybe if you're spending 50 every time that you and I, we meet on my business. So maybe next time I'm looking for you to spend 60. And to earn that is called the share of wallet. So instead of that additional $10 that you were spending at any other competitor, now I'm earning that and you're spending that on my end.
Awesome.
So
Thank you for your input. Thanks for your input, Lathanette.
You're welcome.
I just want to go ahead. I know Keto has her hand up. Excuse me. And then we did have a few people chime in on the chat. So I know Rebecca said they could invest in a new machine that juices the oranges faster so they can make more juice per hour. And let me see. Shantae, that's good. Not only are we spending our money, but you make us feel needed and important. Yes. Keto, you want to bring yourself off of mute? Did you want to add to maybe what Lathanette said, or maybe come from it from a different perspective?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted, you hadn't asked the question if you should do, if you should increase your selling price or volume. And from a lot of the great points came out. From my experience, if you increase your volume and you deliver excellent service, you can do two things. You can get a better buying power to extend it to your customer. And the more volume that they send to you, the higher your profit should be. Is that a good way of looking at things?
That is a really good question. And that there is common different aspects to it. So let's try to break it. So going back to your point, the more volume and I can increase my revenue in different ways, because to the example of the juice shop, if I'm increasing volume, so it's going to give me a better power to get a better pricing to my orange suppliers, right? So the price, my final price to the consumer will still be $1 or the $2. However, I'm buying the oranges with a lower price, which is going to increase my margin from 50%, perhaps will go up to 55%. So at that point, having the exact very similar operation, just with a higher volume, is going to make me more profitable. And let's keep an eye on this. It's not just about the oranges. How about if I can get my supplier from the cups with a cheaper price? Or I have an alternative that will be like a paper cups, and that way I can add a marketing campaign like in Omar's orange shop. We care about environment and we hate plastic or things like that. And then I might be able to get additional subsidies by the government, whatever is the case. There are so many options, good options that they can come out of that. But also, I need to be careful if I'm expanding and I'm having the volume, but I'm not ready for it. So that's why, like someone said about the machine, the equipment. So in this case, will be fantastic, because if I have the machine doing like what I'm supposed to do with my 2 arms, so I might be able to greet more customers. And to your point, I already earned this trust, and having this great service then will be easier for me when you come to my business, and I can say hello by name, and I can say, hey, I'm so glad you came today. I'm having this fruit basket for Eastern, and I was thinking just of you because you're such a great customer, and you will be always open for any of the offers or any of my conversations, because we already built that relationship. And then in the meantime that I'm having my conversation with you, my machine is doing, you know, the juice and they put on the cups and all these kind of things. So at the end, if we review the entire operation that you mentioned, and I just confirmed, is we are always looking to improve efficiencies on the process, whether if you're delegating, whether if you're adding technology, when it's in this case the machine, that's exactly what it's doing. We're adding technology, but not necessarily has to be with a piece of equipment. Could be with a software, could be with a computer, could be with a database. So always we need to be open to feedback and identify different ways on how we can earn that extra 15 minutes, or how I can earn that extra hour that is going to give me more time to get in touch with my customers or get additional businesses. And sometimes higher volume doesn't mean that I'm not going to be able to handle, because if I already have on the services business a strong software and a strong system that has a capacity for, I don't know, 1,000 customers, and I only have 100, I'm already paying for it. So I just need to get higher volume, and I don't have to do any additional investment. So once again, I don't want to get caught into the volume and the numbers. I just want you to understand the concepts and understand and learn your business. Your business talks to you, speaks to you, and then understanding this well with professionals like the team from Enterprise and some other teams, they can guide you or what will be the next move, or your CPA perhaps. That's why it's the BFF. So that answered the question? Yes.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that information.
A pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you for your question, Keto. All right, Omar, we can go ahead and move forward.
Okay, so another option besides the volume could be a simple one. Why not raise the price, right? Because of different situations. If my value is higher than any of my competitors, like in every industry, I mean, I don't have enough time to take care of many customers, so it's more exclusive, my services for certain niche of market, so I can raise the price. And raising the price, having the same cost or the same system, such as the equipment, the maintenance, or the software, whatever is the case, will be a good option, because from 50% raising the price, I might be able to get it at 66% on this example. Now, on these particular situations, please be careful, because raising the price, I might hurt the feelings of my customers and the loyalty that I worked so hard to create, that if I don't do it responsibly, and if I don't have better data to make this decision, because I'm assuming that they're loyal to me and they love me, it takes only one experience for you to lose that love, right? For you to lose that trust. So if I don't do it with a particular reason, I might be sacrificing customers. I'm gonna give you an example that it just happened. The cost of eggs was really expensive lately, and they still been super expensive. I don't know in Europe, but up here, they're super expensive. So what the manufacturers they were doing with the snacks and the industry with bread and pastries and cakes and all these kind of things, when a year ago the egg is a very important material or raw material for my final product, but I was able to manage that. They, they go up and down, but they weren't as crazy high as they were before. So if I'm Spanish, and we usually eat a lot of bread and bakeries and cakes and all these kind of things. So we can miss bread either breakfast or dinner. So when you go to the bakery, what do you think the owner of the bakery was going to do to jack up the price of my rolls for breakfast? I mean, they might lose many of the customers, because if I can afford that, so I will look for alternative options until the price gets regulated. So one of the biggest moves that the biggest corporations they did in order to not to pass the cost of this to the consumer, so believe it or not, they went ahead and they did the rolls, they did it a little smaller. And I don't know if you are aware, but also in the potato chips industry and the Frito-Lays and all these kind of things, the little bags of potato chips or Tostitos or whatever is the case, they did it a little smaller, that at the end for me as a consumer, that was maybe 2 Tostitos on a difference of 2 potato chips, and I didn't feel it. But they were so proactive, and they were able to control. They pivoted that last minute, and they were able to control without affecting that much the final consumer, which is the clientele. You guys with me? So sometimes we need to observe the thing, but before I make the decision to go ahead and pass that to the final price of my product, I need to be super conscious, and I need to wear my customer's shoes, because maybe I'm making a big mistake, and I might be sacrificing future revenues and the sustainability of my business. That's going to be your ultimate goal. Make sure that your business operation is so good that you have a good client base, that your business can be run on cruise control, because you're doing such a good job as a manager, and the processes are so well defined that the business runs smooth and gets sustainable. And while you accomplish this, then you can start to keep adding either a service, another business revenue, or who knows, sell it and create another venture. So you never know, but always try to look for perfection, not so much on the product, but more on the process. Because if you have a solid process, you can improvise, or you can improve that particular final product. And in this example also, another way could be offering discounts. Another thing that I would be careful offering a discount, because if I'm offering a discount to get a large business, but my margin, which is the percentage here on the bottom, you see, when I offer a discount, I lower my margin. So my margin gets so little. At the end, we say in Spanish, you buying milk to sell milk. But what's the point? You know, I want to buy milk and I want to send a milkshake and a brownie or something like that. So that's something that you need to be super conscious about. It happens all the time when I'm crazy to grow and I want to go to the online sales and I want to fight with all these big tigers, but I'm not ready. So then I'm looking to get to Amazon and I'm getting all these great price into Amazon and all these big corporations. And at the end, I can't even afford that because the cost of my entire operation is higher than whatever I'm generating as a revenue. You guys with me?
Perfect. So just gonna take a minute to maybe address some of the hands up. So we're gonna go backwards. Joy, do you wanna come off mute and ask your question?
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Omar, I think I understand that you're not in New York State. My business, I have a moving business, highly regulated in New York. We have to file a tariff, have our pricing approved by the state. So once we get that approved, we can't get away from that pricing. That's the pricing we have to provide. We also can't do specials or discounts because that would take us away from the approved pricing. So I had been thinking that, well, gee, we want to go after the bigger jobs because obviously you can make more money. But if I do any miscalculation and that job costs me more, there's a big risk that I'm going to lose money. So now I'm thinking the services that we offer that are pretty simple, that don't involve a lot in the way of goods, such as, you know, unloading, where we're just providing the labor. All I have to do is send a crew of 2 men out to do the labor. Or packers, all I have to do is send a crew out to do the packing. We've already accounted, we charge them for any packing materials. But then in order to increase that volume with those products, I've got to have multiple crews out. So that's where I have the struggle. Do I want to direct my attention to fielding more crews on the lower income products and services, or do I want to take the risk and go after the larger jobs where I can make more money? But again, if I miscalculate and I say this job's going to take 2 trucks and it takes 3, well, then my profit drops.
Yeah, oh my God, that's a terrific example. And it makes it simple because of the regulations by the state and everything. So I'm eliminating the options that you have, and you have it clear, Joy. The only option that you have is process and how you find efficiencies. So part of the process is the labor. And you mentioned something, the timing. So what is the timing when they're doing the moving? What is the timing on packing? Because at the end, the materials and investment is going to be the same. That is pretty much, that was the point that I was trying to set across with the software, right? So you already bought the tape, you already bought the boxes, but what else? So that's something that you as a business owner and how you can innovate, perhaps, or adding an additional service on or creating this value proposition from your business that is going to attract more customers and the same experience. That's going to be the way to determine if you're going to acquire more business, which is more volume. You definitely need additional help, right? But you know when to make that decision. So that's why it's so important, the organic growth. So as you go, you add one, and then once you know exactly how much that represents that investment, Then as a business owner, you need to set your own goals. So if I know my business operation, just like you described that, in and out, very specific. So the trucks usually take 45 minutes. I spend 10 gallons of diesel or whatever is the case, right?
Mhm.
So then is a crew of 3 or 4 that costs me X amount every day. So how many more additional businesses I need to bring on to be able to be sustainable with my additional employees or my additional crew? Or maybe doing that differentiation on the services that you're having. Because if you're going for the big contracts, maybe the margin will be higher. But those kind of things, like you mentioned, the unexpected, the emergencies, you cannot expect to be profitable on everything that you do. You cannot expect as a business owner to make a winning on everything that you do, because sometimes businesses, big businesses, they have certain business lines not to be profitable, but just to catch volume and attract different customers. So I wish I have a better answer for you, like you have to hire X amount of businesses, but I can't unless you really dissect and break down your process and understand where the dollars are coming from and where the dollars are going. So every cost that you have, try to find ways how to reduce that, how to pay less, or how make the most of it with the same investment. And that is all about you reviewing over and over and over the same process.
I understand.
I wish it could be more helpful. Sorry.
Well, one of the things that I was thinking about, we're into spring now. While I can't do anything with my pricing, it may be a time when people want to start cleaning out their garages, cleaning out their attics. So I could send 2 crews there, get people out and take advantage of that. It's not a special relative to price, but it's marketing due to the season.
Mrs. Shine had a really good point that this is pretty much part of the punchline. Once you have the first experience with that consumer became your client. So the strategy is how to get back to them and make them reoccurring. And having that, earning their trust because you did such a good job, then you can reach out back to them, like the Sonic example, and then you said, hey, thank you for your business. How about this? Or how about that? And
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
question, Joy. All right, Omar, thank you for the response to that. So I just want to get through maybe one more before we kind of move on to the slides. I know Marie had her hand up a while back. Marie, did you still have a question?
No, you can disregard the question. I figured it out. Thank
Okay, no problem. If you have another question, please feel free to put it in the chat. And then Maida, I see you have something in here from a while back. So it says, does a healthy business, I'm not quite sure. It says, should it be more than 0% of revenue and 40% of costs? It sounds like you're asking a ratio question, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it was a grammatical error. So my question is more like, can we define a healthy business like having 60-40, 70-30, or it varies?
I wish I have an answer for that. So depending on the industry, depending on the business, depending on the location, there are standards of profit margins. That's why if you've seen sometimes in TV when they said that the retail space is brutal, because at the end they only earn just a little bit. It's more about how many additional products they can sell. Another example is when we go to a gas station, we assume like, oh, the owner of the gas station must be rich because they have all this money and all these kind of things, but their margins are so minimum then maybe their main revenue could be on the coffee that they sell on the convenience store, or the cigarettes, or some additional things. So that, depending on the industry, depending on the revenue, this is more based on the usage from the consumers and things like that. But I wish I can tell you, hey, it's 70-30. So now the answer of a healthy business is the business that has a really good process, well-defined, and the cash cycle is very stream, meaning that you sell your product or service and you collect the money right away. In the perishable business, meaning that you are able to use your inventory and you don't waste any of the materials. And on the services business is how efficient I am with the amount of time that I invested in the business and how many customers I can add on with the same effort and the same things that I'm doing, and how reoccurring my customers are. Because I can have a great business, but if they only talk to me once a year, so how I'm gonna make it a business? How I'm gonna make a live off? So that's why once you get to know your business and the cost and the process, that's how you can tell me with property. You can say, like for instance, Joy mentioned, Omar, my biggest season is about to start, which is spring, right? So that's when I have the biggest income and all these kind of things. And that's how she can do any forecasting of these sales based on previous numbers. And that's how she can create an additional campaign to generate additional revenue. But a healthy business is a business that has a well process defined, that at the end, the gross profit margin is profitable and the cash cycle is very simple. Because sometimes businesses, they sell to collect to 60 days, 90 days, sometimes they can even collect. So that's when you start to measure the health of a business, and sometimes it's part of it. Quick example, a contractor, they only get the down payment, and maybe after 10 days or 30 days that they deliver the job, they can collect the rest. Who's going to guarantee me that that person is going to pay him the rest of the contract? So
so based on what you're saying, for example, a subscription model for any coaching business or consulting business could be a good idea only if we have a good process in place.
Ultimately, subscription models, they're always fantastic because you can count on that. But now the big question mark is how loyal your customers are and what is the customer acquisition cost. That's a different question, but I'm going to leave you that out there, okay? How loyal they are, because if I'm going to, I love your product. Example, these audiobooks. I love to get my audiobooks, but then on a times like this, is it worth it to keep paying the $10 a month? Or usually with your cable services, if you're paying HBO or for Netflix or for whatever is the case, in times like this, you will question yourself, is it worth it, the $15 or $20 or whatever? I just may cancel that, and maybe next year I'll take it back.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Mayra.
I'm good with my slides, by the way. I mean, I pretty much, I talk all about the budgeting and all these kind of things. I don't have a last one that says the end, but I'd rather to answer more questions for all of you, if you guys, you allow me. So.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Omar. We really do appreciate you taking the time to go through this with us. There is another question Jacqueline asked earlier. It says, how do you account for labor it took you to make the product? So who determines what your time value is?
That's a good question. That goes by state. So the professions, I mean, you're in New York and I'm here in Boston. So the guidelines of the minimum wages and all these kind of things, they vary based on the state. If we go down south, they might be a little bit lower, but it's also tied to the cost of living and the demand. I wish I can go ahead and tell you, yeah, there's X plus plus Y and Z, but that there is a lot of studies and statistics behind the scenes that's coming from our government, and that's how they determine this. And once again, that doesn't mean that every attorney in my area, they have to charge me $200 an hour, because that's based on the value that they're providing, right? So if I have this super duper attorney that Jim Sokolov or one of these big shots, they might be charging me $750 an hour, or maybe $1,000 an hour. And maybe they're worth it because of the demand. So, but they have certain guidelines. Actually, if you type how much a bus driver makes in Massachusetts, and they might give you some average, but that doesn't mean that that's the exact amount of it. So
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Jacqueline. I hope your question was answered. So if I missed anyone's questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat for me right now. We still have a good 25 minutes technically that we are scheduled for. As you know, if we finish early, we can jump off early, but I just want to make sure that we're addressing any questions that may have not gotten answered. All right, awesome. Omar, thank you. You did answer Jacqueline's question. While we're waiting to get some additional questions in the chat, I just want to make sure that I introduce Dave Kraus. For those of you who are not familiar with him, he is an awesome person. He's going to be our numbers guy, basically. So he worked with our cohort last year for the financial mentorship piece. And Dave, if you can just come on camera for a quick second and introduce yourself, just let everyone know kind of what your expertise is, so they know. I have a timer for myself here, don't mind me. So that they know a little bit about your expertise and what they're potentially getting into if they decide to sign up for the mentorship with you.
Hello, thanks, Jahida. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm with New Level Strategies, and I've been working with Pastone for a few years now. And like Jahida mentioned, I worked with last year's cohort, and the one-on-one mentoring kind of utilized my strengths, which was kind of understanding the numbers of your business. A lot of what Omar
Okay, so it's like
we're gonna be building on that, and just kind of tearing apart your business from a numbers perspective and understanding the costs and helping you with pricing decisions. A lot of stuff related to the questions the really good questions you've all been asking tonight. And really, I think my strength is more in the forecasting and the budgeting side. So hopefully we'll get to that with each of you that I'm working with, and I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks for the intro.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave. So Marisol, if you can please go ahead and put that link in the chat for everyone to see. This link is just a very general interest form. So we want to know if you are interested in signing up for mentorship. Again, this is free to you. This is covered through Pathstone. And basically, once we have the full list of everyone that's interested in getting financial mentorship, we'll then go ahead and work with Dave to figure out a schedule, and you can all then, you'll have a separate time slot because it is a one-on-one session. It isn't a group session the way we do Tuesdays and Thursdays. So again, the link is in the chat right now. Kim mentioned that Dave is amazing. I know there are a few people on today's call that have also worked with Dave, and they can attest to just the amazing information, wealth of knowledge that he provides. And he is a very understanding and patient person. So I can attest to that because he deals with me all the time. So we really appreciate having him on board. You will also receive an email from us. More than likely that'll come from Marisol. And again, it'll have the link in there if for some reason you are not able to click in the chat, or for anyone that maybe had to jump off early off of today's call. So we still have about 21 minutes left. I do not see any new questions in the chat. But Omar, is there anything that you wanted to maybe say before we go ahead and close out today's class?
Oh, I have a lot of things to say. I thought that my time was only until 7 o'clock. I was kind of like proud of myself that I made it on time, but I usually run out of time. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. We appreciate the interaction. I will say that I'm being a bit more of a stickler for time just because I want to make sure that we can get everyone's questions answered. And sometimes, unfortunately, we're not able to. So, but we really do appreciate you just
my
diving.
pleasure, my pleasure. But what David just mentioned, super important. You guys, you have no idea how important is that. And if you are having the option and his generosity to be a mentor, please do it, because that is budgeting and forecasting. It's so critical, because the only way for you to get to this point, once again, and I'm going to repeat myself, is knowing your business, but also getting ready for the future. And besides this, to be getting ready with the budget, with their, you call it reserve funds, for whatever is the case, but you can anticipate whatever is coming out, especially if you are running a seasonal business. This is super critical, because it's going to help you on this kind of like dry seasons. It's going to help your business to have a regular operation and mitigate the challenges for this. That's number one. Number two, why that is so important for business owners, because at some point any business needs to get financing. At any point, you are going to talk to my relationship managers, and you're going to talk to some of my peers in the different financial institutions. And one of the things that most of the times is required is forecasting. And the forecasting has to make sense. So if Kimberly or no, Joy mentioned about the moving business, and if I'm a specialist on that, then I know that your prices are regulated. And if I know that you're not going to be able either to provide discounts or overcharge for these particular things, so you better give me in this forecast some real numbers that are going to make me think that you are accurate, and this is not just numbers like you just created because you want to grab my attention or get approved for any particular loan or line of credit. And the way to forecast future, you have to have a full understanding and read the previous numbers. Because if that doesn't make any sense, so that's also, you're going to create confusion, and the people that review the credits, usually the underwriters, and they will deny it. Doesn't matter if your business is super profitable, if your business have a lot of assets, enough collateral, but if we don't have confidence that you are providing, like, it doesn't have to be exact information, but close to accurate, then there is no way that a bank will like to take a chance with you. So, and for so many other things, if you're looking to sell the company, if you're looking to add a partnership, if you're looking to add a different venture, forecasting and budgeting and all these kind of things is going to help you to design the goals for what's coming up. And in fact, that's part of our approach. By November and December, when we talk to our business owners, we approach them and said, what are you looking to do next year? What are the plans? So sometimes the business plans are to retain and maintain existing customers. Some other businesses, they want to open new geography areas. They want to open new locations. And sometimes businesses, they just want to reduce the overhead, the cost of it. So there are so many things, and only knowing the forecasting, the budgeting, that's going to be key for the growth of the company. Questions?
Awesome. Thank you, Omar. We actually do have a question. Before we get to Maida's question, I know, again, we still have about 15 minutes on here. So if there are any other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We'll definitely address them. But I just want to, one, say thank you to Omar. For anyone that maybe is jumping off early, thank you again, Omar. You know, everyone has heard that Citizens is our sponsor for She Means Business, and it is really, it's just, you know, this is obviously a very important program. This is one of our most popular programs here at Pathstone, and we appreciate Citizens' support and having you come in and, like Dave said, right, just diving into this particular section, which isn't always fun and exciting, but you definitely put your own spin on it, your own personality into it. So we really do appreciate you being here with us. And I also just want to say thank you to the participants that continuously come every week, right? If you folks don't show up, we don't have any information to provide. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for wanting to just do better in your business, right? Learn more. That really should be something that you're continuously trying to do. And a huge thank you to the Pathstone team, so Marisol and all my other colleagues that kind of jump in on calls, and especially to Kim, which is our main facilitator, and Dave, which most of you, if you are not signing up for mentorship, maybe you want to think about that. But those of you that do not know Dave or will now get to know Dave, you know, Dave, we really appreciate you and the New Level team for just, again, being a partner of Pathstone and helping us make this a possibility. So those are the thank yous. We'll get to the questions. Anyone else that is interested in staying on, stay on. Those that need to drop off, enjoy the 14 minutes that we're giving you back. But we will go ahead with Maida's question. Let's see. Bear with me one second. All right, I saw your question here, Maida. Bear with me. Oh, here it is. Okay. When you are starting a service business, how do you forecast? Based on competitors' numbers?
That's a super good question. Because in order for you to forecast, you need to have data. So that's a good measure. You can use data from your competitors, but if you are starting up, what I said before is in finances, you need to make this as realistic as possible, and we need to compare apples with apples. So if the data that I'm getting from my competitors, they are already in business, so I cannot go ahead and say that I'm forecasting this amount of sales unless I have it's called POs, purchase orders signed, but on the services, some letters of intent or some contract, some way, somehow signed, that at that point, I will say, okay, so I can forecast on this because of this. But I cannot go ahead and talk to David and say, hey, David, I'm doing this because I'm sure I can sell it and I'm sure I can get all these customers, trust me, and all these kind of things. It doesn't work like that. So we have to, again, is generating confidence and mitigating risk. How you can prove it? The bankers, we are on your side. The institutions that are willing to work with you, they are on your side. Believe me, they want to do business, but you need to generate that confidence. This business in the financial industry is all about risk. So that idea that many of the consumers and entrepreneurs, they have that the bank wants my car, the bank wants my house, the bank wants my building. The banks don't want any of that. That the bank is not on the real estate business. The banks want their money. Simple. They want those loans to be repaid. Simple. They want to make a profit with that. So the bank needs something as a safety net, as collateral, worst case scenario. And that's why they're requiring these particular assets in case if that doesn't go well. But if you mitigate the risk, or if you reduce the risk, or if the bank has a question, like, okay, so Ligia, you've been doing well so far for the past 3 years. So what makes you think that you will continue this path? Or what plans you have on the business? Remember, as a business owner, you need to play with your own goals. I'm not expecting to be flat on a flat line of growth, because at the end, nobody wants to do business with me. So you haven't done, Omar, for the past, you haven't done anything for the past 2 years. I'm trying to grow every year. So now the question is, how much? 10%, 15%, 20%? And then if that's my goal, what I'm gonna do about it? So those are the things. So if I go ahead and show it, said, okay, so my next year, we already, so far we did $100,000. In my next year, I'm going to do 120,000. And this is why I'm projecting this and I'm forecasting this, because Kimberly bought me the trend on Kimberly. She is a great customer, and I've seen her growth. 10% or 15% on the orders, and I know Kimberly is expanding, so I want to be part of the growth, and I'm going to supply her with more services or more things like that. That generates trust in me. I said, you know your customers, you know your business, so that's more credible. Okay, but that's something important. And before I continue, if some of you are going to disconnect, I just wanted to thank you all. I'm super proud of you. Believe me, most of you are on your homes. I'm still in the building, but I love it. I'm super proud of you, because I wish most of the entrepreneurs in this country take advantage and do invest this time that you're doing. When I deal with all these business owners, it breaks my heart to see that most of their mistakes, they're not intentional. Sometimes these mistakes on the business space, and in reality, they cost money. And that might cost your entire business because of a mistake, a naive mistake that they had no idea how to protect themselves or how to mitigate it. Why? Because I thought that I was in my contracting business, I was painting houses, and my idea of being a great business owner was to be the best painter out there. But I never took my time to talk to professionals and see, hey, do I need a life insurance? Do I need to become an LLC? Do I need to learn about this accounting? I have that person that they do it at H&R Block or whatever is the case, but I didn't want to get involved on the numbers, and I didn't want to learn about my process and about growth. And sometimes we ended up making mistakes that they're costly. And it happened back in COVID. It broke my heart to see many businesses that they couldn't qualify for many of these grants. It happened back in 2008. I actually came to United States in 2005, and that was my welcoming thing on my financial career, like, hey, welcome to 2008. And I learned, and it broke my heart. And believe it or not, we are walking in another big one. David knows what I'm talking about, and this is going to be a serious one, and this is just the beginning. However, the best way to get prepared for this is knowing the business and knowing what kind of decisions we need to make to protect ourselves. That's the only way. There is not such a thing that, oh, you're a better business manager because you went to, I don't know, Harvard, Oxford. Maybe that person knows the business better. Maybe that person, it delegates and also listens to whoever wants to help. So once again, super proud of all of you. That you're doing the right thing. And if you can learn more and more every day, don't hesitate to it. Thank you for that amazing team to Enterprise Center. Kimberly, I didn't know you were pretty much the director of the program. That's why you clap on my closing remarks. Thank you, I appreciate it. But thank you to the entire team. So now I'm more willing to questions. And while I'm getting another question, the things to remember. What is the revenue? What is the COGS, COGS, cost of goods sold? What is a gross profit? What's a margin? What is a cost? Is my cell phone part of my operation? Can I talk to David about the cell phone bill? Can I talk to my accountants about all these kind of things? How about my car? You know, and how about all these kind of things? So learning these little things. Is my internet part of the cost of my business? Is my cable perhaps? So all these kind of things, keep it in mind. What is financials? What is an income statement? What information I get from the income statement? What is the famous bottom line? What is the famous top line that we see it on the movies all the time? What is the bottom line and all this kind of thing? So now the bottom line is the end of the result, if you're profitable or not. Is it okay to show negative numbers at the beginning of my journey? Or maybe they're not truly negative. Maybe those are investments that you're doing that someone professional can tell you it is okay. It's not, you're not actually losing money. You're just investing to get ready for the future. What's the difference between the income statement or the famous income statement is what is called the P&L, the profit and loss. So what is it? What is it? And what's the difference with the balance sheet? What kind of information I can get out of the balance sheet? What kind of information I can get out of the P&L? And there are some other two more financial statements that, just as a general information, they call the ARs and APs. They call account receivables reports and account payables report. But that's for another class. That's more for David. David, you have all the complicated classes, okay? So, but those are the things that you need to start to get familiar. Because if you're having a meeting with one of your suppliers, with a customer, with a banker, with an accountant, and especially with customers loved, and listen to this, customers loved to have meetings with professional business owners, because that gives me the safety and the confidence that the way that you're behaving is the way that you are operating your business. And if you are very professional in the way that you're handling yourself on the meeting, that's what I'm assuming that that's what I will get from, and that's the result of the service of the final product that I will get. The professionalism, someone that knows and talks with ownership and property. So, and that happens all the time. Sometimes when I'm trying to open a new customer, it's like an interview. They will ask me these questions of what could happen if it's snowing, if it's raining, all these kind of things. How you can ensure that you're going to deliver my final product and things like that. So just be prepared on that. The more that you know it, the more that you learn about it, it becomes an instant. You don't have to rehearse. You know, the more that you talk about it, the more that comes out. But make sure that you take the time and learn about your own business. So I think there is no more questions. It was such a pleasure.
We actually have a hand up, and there was one question. Kiari, do you want to, I see you have your hand up. Do you want to go ahead and ask your question real quick? And then Jacqueline, I know you have a question in the chat as well.
Yeah, Omar, can you name those four financial sheets one more time?
The income statement, or the P&L, profit and loss. Okay.
So those two are the same thing?
No, it's the same thing. Yeah, some people call it the income statement, some people call it the P&L, some people call it the profit and loss, but pretty much information is the same. So this particular one has gross revenue, the cost of operation, the gross margin, and then at the end, the net profit, which that's what most of the people are looking for. Then the balance sheet. The balance sheet has information more, that has the information that supports the income statement. So the balance sheet is the one that is telling me if the company has any debt, the company has any assets, what is pretty much is going to give me a better idea of what the company's worth based on the equity and all these kind of things. If the company, pretty much the debt, the worth, and the assets of the company. So that's a support with the P&L, and that's why I said they have to go hand to hand. One or the other is like a naked statement. They have to go together, at very least those two. And then additional financial statements could be the account receivables or AR, which is pretty much when you're telling me, Omar, I'm expecting to get from hire my customer in 45 days, 100,000, because we already delivered that. And I gave her, I don't know, the flexibility to pay me in 45 days. And account payables is the other way around. It's pretty much what I'm supposed to pay either on 30 days, on 60 days, on 90 days, whether if it's payroll, whether if it's a loan, whether if it's suppliers, whatever is the case, but you have to disclose details of that. Those are the main ones. There is another one, there is a schedule of business debt, but you can get that out of the balance. So to keep it simple, profit and loss or income statement, the balance sheet, account receivables report, account payables report. With those four, I think is more than enough information for someone that is learning about your business. We can have a better idea how your operation looks like.
And do most lenders, are they satisfied with those four?
Oh, that's a good question. Most to start the process, to run numbers, yes. But once we are into the process, we will need the schedule of business debt. So what's that? The schedule of business debt is pretty much, you're telling me, Omar, I owe 50,000 of my van, and the van, the value of the van is 60,000. I owe 50, and I took a loan for 5 years. So that means 60 payments, and each payment is 1,500, and this is the interest rate. And then I bought a commercial real estate, and this is the amount of my mortgage. So pretty much it's a detailed schedule of debt that you have. And the purpose of us as a bank is to see what are the kind of like the fixed monthly obligations. That way we can calculate cash flow, or sometimes to make it simple is some sort of like the debt to income ratio. Remember what I said, Carrie? The business of the banks is not the asset or the vehicle of the building. The business of the bank is to get the money back. And all these calculations behind the scenes is to make sure that you're able to afford the new debt that you're looking for.
Okay, so the schedule of business that shows the DTI of the business?
It gives me information to calculate the DTI. The DTI we don't use on the business side. It's the same concept, but we don't use that word. That's on the personal side. But to your point, yes, it's gonna tell me like your revenues are 100, and you're looking to get a 50,000 to get a piece of equipment, right? So the first question is, why? Why do you need the piece of equipment? What are you looking to do that, and what this will represent on your business? So going back to the example of the orange juice, if you needed the 50,000 to get that juice, then you can tell me, Omar, because with that machine is going to save me 1 hour every day. It's going to save me 3 hours a day. So that means I'm going to generate more revenues, and that will be, my business will grow. And I said, okay, so now you currently are making $1,000, but you have to pay every month 700. So you actually only have 300, and the payments on the machine are going to be 400. So right there, it's not working out. So what are we gonna do in this situation? So that's pretty much the principle, Karen. Like it's gonna back and forth, but the bank, what is looking to do is to find out as close as we can get if you are able to repay the loan, and if your industry will be affected by any unexpected situation. Example, COVID with the,
Okay,
I had to jump in here. We are now 4 minutes past
Oh, okay, I'm
7:30.
sorry.
No, you're good. It's a great conversation, but I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Kiari, great question. If you want to dive in deeper into this, we do have those Thursday sessions. If you want to go ahead and ask Kim that question, I'm sure she can kind of go deeper into that. There's also, like I mentioned, there's a financial mentorship with Dave. Please, if you have not done so yet, go ahead and fill out that interest request form. Then we'll figure out the scheduling for that. And then we can kind of address those questions. Jacqueline, I do see your question in the chat. I'm sorry, we are out of time. However, I'll go ahead and copy and paste this and send this over to Kim. And she can address it either on Thursdays, or if you've already signed up for mentorship with Dave, I can, have one of them at least kind of go over this question with you. But in short, you want to be mindful of what your pricing is based on the industry, because yes, sometimes if you're pricing yourself so low, people will consider you, they will just think that maybe your services aren't as great. That does not mean that that's the truth, but that's the short answer. So you don't want to overprice yourself and you don't want to undercut yourself either. Just be kind of average within the industry, depending on what your services are. Omar, again, thank you. I'm sorry I have to cut you off.
Thank you, Omar, for answering my questions. That made a lot of sense.
A pleasure.
Thank you, everyone, again for joining. I know Omar won't be with us next week, but Omar, hopefully you can join us for one of the future sessions, or if you want to jump on next week, please feel free to chime in. If you have any questions or anything like that, you can, just be one of the participants. It'll be awesome to have you back. And thank you again for your time. And everyone, have a good night. We will see you soon. Bye, everyone.